Hey, this is Johnny Jet, and this is my 39 travel questions. And today we have Gabe Saglie, who is Travel Zoo's senior editor. And this guy travels the country and world, but doing TV interviews, talking about the latest trends, travel tips, the deals. And he's amazing. And now he just started his own Gabe Saglie show. Am I even pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yeah, Gabe Saglie. After a while, it just rolls.
Saglie.
That's it. It makes it sound fancier between you and me.
So I've known Gabe for a long time. We've
Yeah.
traveled together. We've been to Ireland. We've been to cruises. We've been to many places. And I know that you were born in Norway.
That's right. Yeah. Can't you tell?
But your parents are Chilean.
That's right.
So did you ever live in Chile?
I did, actually. My dad was a pretty well-known dentist and researcher in Chile, went to Norway to get a PhD in his specialty. I was born there. My brother Luis was born there. When I was 3, we moved back to Chile, where all my family is. The big family there, mainly in Santiago. And when I was 8, he got hired by UCLA. So we moved to Los Angeles for a year at first. Then it was a second year. Then he got hired on full time. So since the age of 8, pretty much Southern California has been home, and it's I love living here.
And where'd you go to college?
UCLA. Kept the tradition going. UCLA for college, USC for grad school, where I got a broadcast journalism degree. I was going to be a doctor for a long time. Wow. Switched gears after college, broadcast journalism at USC, a great master's program at the Annenberg School. And then I started, my first job was in San Diego as a news writer. Then I was a weatherman, believe it or not, in Santa Barbara. And then about 15 years ago, I entered the realm of travel and translated a lot of my sort of broadcast and TV expertise. Instead of doing the interviewing, I was the interviewee now. And it's been really a great run. I mean, I love it. It's a very consumer-focused thing that I do, trying to make the world of travel, and certainly what's going on now and what's coming ahead. Like, how do you make that accessible and digestible to just the average consumer out there? And that's kind of been my shtick for the last several years.
And I know you fly a lot. I mean, you're 1K on United, so you fly at least over 100,000 miles a year. How many countries do you think you've been to?
A couple dozen countries. Much of the travel I've done in the last, I'd say, decade has been domestic. So I've been able to rack up sort of the number of states that I've done. I think the vast majority of states. And I go on these stations as sort of a travel contributor, and for KTLA here in LA, and Pix 11 in New York, and I kind of everything in between. As you know, I go to Ireland several times every year. I'm there for every St. Patrick's Day. I've been covering the Halloween story there for the last couple of years. I do Canada quite a bit. I do Mexico often, Europe, travel all over Europe. There's still some places on the planet I'd like to do. I haven't done Africa yet. And there are some Eastern European countries that I still would love to visit. So the list will continue to grow here, Johnny.
You've been to Australia?
Have not been to Australia yet, and actually my brother Luis moved there at the very beginning of the year before the whole COVID thing happened, so he's there in Sydney. So now I have a place to stay. So that's definitely high up there on the what to do next list for me.
So 4 or 5 continents you've been to?
I'd say 4 of the 5. Yeah, 4. I would say 4, 5.
Because you're missing Africa, 5. Antarctica. I assume?
Yeah, so I'd say 4 out of the 7 is where I've been. I've got to do it. I'll do Antarctica at some juncture. I'd love to do that. There's some great cruising options that exist now that didn't before. And then, I've got to do Africa. I've got to do, and I've got to do Australia.
You got to get cracking, my friend.
I got to do it.
Right.
I love those long haul flights. I know it's not the name of the game right now, but I'm looking forward to my next long haul flight when it's.
What is the longest flight you've ever taken?
Probably nonstop from London to LA. I remember that being kind of a pretty hefty flight. I flew from Dublin to London, and then I got an upgrade. I used, you usually you bank these upgrades with an airline like United, and it went through, and I got to go on this wonderful. It wasn't long enough. When you get upgraded to those super premium seats, and the food is good, and the way they take care of you, it really works. All of a sudden, those 17 hours or 15 hours, whatever it was, went by kind of quickly. It was a really enjoyable flight.
So what is your favorite American city?
I got to go with New York. we lived in New York for about a year and a half. When I entered the travel media space. About a year and a half later, we moved to back to LA, and I did love living out there. I prefer living in Southern California, but as far as interesting. New York may not be the New York that you and I remember. Certainly in the short term here, as it begins to kind of come back online. But the way that New York was a couple of months ago, with all the options to do and see and eat, friends I have now on the ground there, or that I've developed over the years. To me, that is the most dynamic U.S. city, and I don't get tired of going there at all.
And how about internationally?
Well, I visited Lisbon for the first time in a long time, actually, since I was a little kid last year. Loved Lisbon. I do love Dublin, as you know. I have an affinity for Ireland because I'm there so often. So I'm going to say that international, I think Dublin. Dublin, in part because it's a doorway to everything else that's awesome about Ireland. That West Coast, the North, the South. I like the idea of spending a couple of nights in Dublin, but really spending the vast majority of my stay in the middle of the country. The West Coast is fantastic, dramatic scenery that you wouldn't see anywhere else on the planet. So I'm going to say Dublin for the access it gives me to the rest of Ireland.
And how are you doing with the quarantine, and what will it take for you to get on a plane again? Would you fly tomorrow?
I would fly tomorrow, Johnny. I would fly tomorrow. And I'm not saying that it's because I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm just I love the art of traveling. I do love flying. And so I say that because I would love for tomorrow to be the day that it's okay to, the lights have all turned green. And, so it's sort of a romantic notion, really. The idea of travel doesn't scare me that much, traveling by plane. I think I'm going to be much more cognizant of things like, the number of things that I touch along the way, the distance thing. I mean, I think we'd gotten to, let's be honest, we'd gotten to the point where we were just kind of putting up with sitting on grimy airplane seats, sticking our hand into that,
seat pocket.
Yeah, the seat pocket and not really know what was in there. We kind of were putting up with, it was time to really shift the way the cleaning protocols were exercised by airplanes. And I think if one of the positives out of this will be that we're just going to expect better and the airlines will deliver better. So in that sense, I think it's going to just sort of change the way I do my flying. But yeah, I'm really ready. It's funny. Everybody's comfort zones are so different. My wife is still waiting. My mom, she has no hurry to leave her house for the next couple of months. I'm a little antsy. I'm ready to get out there. So, I'm just, like, Vegas is opening up. There are these parts of the country. I'd love to go see how that looks and how it feels. So I'd like to be on the leading edge of that. But if I say that, we'll see what happens. I think business travel, which I do a lot of, is going to change.
We'll find out. Where can people find you, by the way, so they can follow your travels when you go to Vegas and things like this?
I'm on social media at Gabe Saglie. And then if you go to YouTube, you can search the Gabe Saglie Show there as well. But I'm on all the major, platforms trying to stay connected. It's funny. The conversation is different on Twitter than it is on LinkedIn, than it is on Instagram. You take on a bit of a different persona depending on who you're talking to on what platform.
For sure. So please subscribe to Gabe's show, subscribe to this channel, sign up to my newsletter and this podcast. And Gabe, I have a feeling I know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Or your answer, but where do you think the friendliest people in the world are?
Well, I got to give a nod to the Irish. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but again, this is a country I visit about 3 times a year under normal circumstances. So yeah, but I mean, that the rumors, I mean, you've been there with me, the rumors you hear about the friendliness, the desire to sit you down and chat with you about love, life, and what's going on in the world. That's true. That's what they want to do. There's a genuine desire to open up and chat with you. And that's pervasive in Ireland. But I'm partial to Los Angeles as well. Sometimes LA gets a bit of a bad rap. You and I live in this part of the world. There's some fantastic folks here. And I think what the quarantine has done for Angelinos and for Southern Californians is it's allowed us to appreciate our natural surroundings much more. It's making us friendlier. I'm not saying more people wave and smile at me when I'm biking down the street. No, there's an essence of Los Angeles that's coming back to the surface now through all of this. And that's been nice to see as well.
I do agree that LA, especially the South Bay, is super friendly. Although I do think the quarantine is getting people less friendly here. Just in my experience, because we cross the other side of the street if someone's walking down one way.
Yeah.
You can't see them smiling. I'm like, why am I smiling? They can't see I'm wearing a mask.
You can tell in the eyes anyway. But I hear you. And also, you're in a part of the state, the South Bay, that is getting that influx of people who are maybe can't do the beaches in Los Angeles, so they're moving south a little bit, and sometimes folks in those areas don't want to see the influx right out of the gate. So I can understand that, but gorgeous part of the state there, the South Bay. You're a lucky man.
Where are the meanest immigration officers in the world?
Well, I think that sometimes the U.S. could do a better job. I take my hat off to the immigration folks and the Border Patrol folks. They do an extremely critical job. One of the neat things about Ireland, keep going back there, is that you can do your customs and all that border stuff there. So when you land in the States, you are a domestic passenger. You don't have to go to the line that everybody else. It's the only European country where you can do this, so that's neat. But yeah, I've had some negative experiences in places like places like New York and LA when I've landed after a long trip, and I say to myself, this is the first image that the foreigner has in this country. We've got to do a little bit of a better job at maybe a smile, but again, it's a really, really tough job. So I'm not underestimating the importance and relevance. I'd rather they do their job right without a smile than have to smile and miss something along the way. But that's where I've seen the more, ruffled feathers, I'd say. I'm
with you. And how about, what's your favorite U.S. airport?
Oh, some beautiful airports out there. I do love the airport in Seattle. I do love the airport in Austin. I think Newark has done a nice job, at least Terminal C, where United is hubbed, better dining options. There's also that secret United restaurant there as well, classified. You need an invite, but it's there. I think that Newark is that, at least Terminal C is I actually like, again, I like LAX. People are intimidated by LAX, but when you figure out how to navigate where you park, how you enter that particular terminal, where the dining spot is, I think LAX can be a little bit of a pleasant experience if it's done right. So I like LAX as well. San Diego, that's a great airport too. And I love the little Santa Barbara airport. A lot of these regional
only get one airport, Gabe. You get one airport.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, I gave you choose one of those. You can't go wrong.
How about internationally?
I find Heathrow to be too big. I remember I seriously had a gate. My next gate was, on paper, looked like 4 gates down, and it was a 30-minute marathon, multiple security stops. I lost a couple of bottles of wine I was going to bring over to friends. It was a nightmare. So Heathrow is not on that list. I like the little airport in Cabo San Lucas just because, it's
you get to
super
press a
no
button
frills.
when you land, but red or green, and see which if you have to get secondary.
Yeah. And I think, the Shannon Airport's fantastic. If you're flying to Ireland, the Shannon Airport on the West Coast, much smaller, much more quaint, and you're in and out. It's super breezy, and it puts you right in a gorgeous part of the country. So maybe Shannon, if I'm looking at international.
Okay. How about your favorite airport lounge?
Well, as United guy, I have to say that I do mostly United lounges. And the LAX lounge at Terminal 7 has a food spread, or has had it. It'll be interesting to see what happens post-COVID here, but that really, kicked everybody out. Even other major hub United clubs, like in Chicago or Newark, don't match what that LAX United club, as far as in the morning, the breakfast is great. My kids were actually excited to have these early morning flights because they knew that they would get to the club and have this awesome spread. So on food alone and a great little patio with a great view of airplanes, I'd say that the United Club at Terminal 7 LAX.
All right. How about a favorite aircraft type?
Ooh. I like the new Dreamliner. I thought the new Dreamliner sort of hit the right mark with all the new bells and whistles.
Unfortunately, they pulled the 787 out of LAX right now.
Yeah, that's right. I heard about that. I don't look. I'm not as the aircraft sort of geek that some other folks in the space are. But I do like the newer, more sort of fuel efficient, sleek aircraft that are coming online, and I think we'll see a whole new generation of them here over the next couple of years as well.
I'm with you. All right. Have you ever sat next to any celebrities?
I have sat next to celebrities because, when you get these complimentary upgrades, especially on United's cross-country flights from, say, Newark to Los Angeles, there's some big. I remember once sitting next to Gayle King, who does a CBS morning show,
Yep.
and we started chatting it up because I used to live in Santa Barbara, Oprah Winfrey's town, and so we got chatty there. Across from her was Rachel Maddow on the other side, so that was interesting. And then Vera Igosa, who used to be the LA mayor, was a couple of seats. So that was an interesting kind of like interesting flight. Yeah, I'd say that chatting it up with Gayle King over a 6-hour flight was kind of cool.
Awesome. Actually, I've seen her on one of my American flights before.
So she's not a loyalist, apparently.
It sounds like it.
It's whoever's got her. Yeah, whoever's got the first class. Available.
Since your show takes place behind a bar, what is your favorite drink of choice on the ground and in the air?
Great question. So as you know, I lean toward wine. On the side, I've been writing about the California wine scene for almost 20 years now. So I've done an amazing amount of research there. So a nice glass of Pinot, depending on the time of day, is something I would pour here in my bar. Happen to have this bottle of Almarosa Pinot that's empty now, but enjoyed that last night with my wife out of Santa Barbara County. Great Pinot. In the air, I'm not against a drink before takeoff. I would probably do a screwdriver there. This is not if I'm going on a work trip, obviously, if I'm going on a leisure destination. I'd say screwdrivers and Bloody Marys in first class is kind of.
All right. And how about favorite restaurant in the world?
Oh, wow. Santé inside the Fairmont Sonoma Mission Inn and Spa. When you think about these meals that even years later you kind of recall, maybe you don't know exactly what you ate, but you thought, or you remember that the service was fantastic, the food was great. But my wife and I had an anniversary dinner there maybe 5 years ago. We still talk about this meal. We've eaten there since, obviously. But Santé inside the Fairmont Sonoma Mission Inn and Spa, I think one of the great restaurants because it's a snapshot of the area. And the service is top notch. Great wine.
I'm going to have to go. Craziest thing you've ever eaten?
Bugs. I will try anything once. And nobody in my family, and my wife, or none of my three. I have one of my three kids is more of an adventurist. But I remember eating some. It was bugs, and it was fish prepared a very unique way in Bangkok when I was there a couple of years ago for a work event. Again, not over the top crazy, but I'm certainly open to trying something at least once.
Best hotel?
Wow.
Or your favorite hotel?
Huh?
Your favorite hotel?
I love the Kimpton brand. So there have been some great stays with Kimptons. They have a great hotel, the La Pierre in West Hollywood. That's really kind of a great, sexy, perfect location hotel. I stayed once with my family at a place called the Adair Manor in the west of Ireland, known today as probably one of the top luxury properties in the world. They have since revamped it and reopened. But I remember staying there and thinking that they had mistakenly thought that we were royalty, or I don't know what they thought they were, but they rolled out the red carpet metaphorically, and it was just an unbelievable, totally approachable, but very, very high-end. McCredden Village, another awesome place to stay. Harvey's Point, another awesome place. Yeah, Ireland has got some really neat, upscale, 5-star, luxury, but super approachable places. I'd say one of those was certainly fit.
Yeah, we actually stayed in a castle together one time.
You and I stayed at Kilkee Castle. Room, yeah, no, that's we stayed at a castle. I remember Kilkee. I mean, that's the longest operating castle in Ireland. It dates back to 87. Yeah, you and I stayed there. That was a great property. That basement lounge with the fireplace and the music and the drinks. That was nice.
I could use it right now.
I know you could.
Best hotel view.
There's the Muse in New York City, in Manhattan on 46th, right up from Times Square. And if you get the right room, sometimes I'll get this compliment because of my status with Kimpton. They'll give you that complimentary upgrade. And there's a couple of rooms with balconies that overlook the heart, that sort of like kind of gritty, buzzy, part of Manhattan, like 6th Avenue, 5th Avenue. That was a great view from there. And then 5 p.m. complimentary wine hour makes it even sweeter a view.
You got like that. What travel credit card do you use, or what credit card do you use when you travel?
I use there's a which one is it? It's the United Mileage Plus card.
Gotcha.
That's you know, and I keep my expenses, I mean, as simple as possible. So I really stick to the one card. I've dabbled here and there, but I find the one that just translates expenses to miles is the one that was easy for me to take advantage of. Again, that's an arena that you know super well, Johnny, that I've yet to sort of dive into. I should really pick your brain.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it.
Okay.
Next time I
know.
see you. How about
You
favorite island?
Oh, I gotta give it to Maui. That's our family sort of, sanctuary is Maui. It's if we ever need, that's become at least once a year we go there as a family. That's sort of our big family getaway every year. Molokai, though, which is the another little Hawaiian island, famous for the leper colony that Father Damien established, 100 years ago or something. Probably the most sort of awe-striking island I've been in, because it was like it's like a throwback to classic 50s Hawaii, super slow paced, super friendly people. You can find barren, empty stretches of beach whenever you want. I think there's one hotel on that island. Otherwise, you're renting private homes. Molokai. I did it as a day trip, but I remember it still. And that's an island that I've got to revisit just because it was so fantastic. But otherwise, Maui's my answer. And Wailea in particular.
Favorite beach?
I'll give it to Polo Beach, which is right across from the Fairmont Kealani there in Wailea. Just because we have so many, as our kids have grown up over the years, I've got so many pictures of them on this one particular beach from the time when they were 4 and 6 to when they've been 11 and 13. I mean, there's just a lot that's been happening on that beach.
What's the beach called again?
Polo, Polo. And it's that beach right across from the Fairmont Kealani. And then you walk, a couple of minutes, and this is the Four Seasons, and that whole beach in front of the Four Seasons in the Grand Wailea, also really, really cool. But Polo is a little bit more secluded, off the beaten path, and at low tide, man, it's a beautiful thing to be able to hang out in.
Best place for adventure travel?
Boy,
are you adventurous?
I'm not as adventurous as you would think by looking at me, Johnny. My wife and I do a great job at sort of staying on the same page when we travel, in that if we're together somewhere and the 3 kids are at home, that means that adventure is being able to just get a really good spot by the pool in the morning, by the beach in the afternoon, and then we go somewhere really nice at dinner. That's the adventure of the day that we really click with. I do think Hawaii, though, does offer pretty much the gamut. I mean, if you're gonna dabble put your toes in the water and just do a little bit of adventure traveling, some kayaking down a river, Hawaii has that. If you want to go crazy and propel off of a helicopter into some craggy cliff, you can do that. So I think for the range of options, depending on the adventure traveler that you are, Hawaii does a fantastic job.
All right, we're down to just a few more questions.
Great.
Best sightseeing excursion you ever done, or best tour?
I did a tour in Galway, and just because I've done a couple of food stories in Galway. The food scene there, Galway is this really cool bohemian town in the 60s and 70s, attracted a lot of artists, and so it's become this kind of like really cool bohemian artsy destination on the west of Ireland. I did a food tour there, Galway food tours. And man, it teaches you just the pleasure, whether it's oysters off the bay, whether it's cheese done up the street, whether it's a spirit that was produced in the distillery, in this old castle. The food scene really comes into focus when you do a really solid food tour. And I'd say the Galway food tours did that for me, for sure.
All right. How about your a movie that inspired you to travel?
A movie that inspired me to travel. Eat, Pray, Love, which was not I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I remember watching that movie, and maybe the storyline, if I remember the essence of the story itself didn't necessarily strike a chord, but I remember that the main character's travels as she's trying to make sense of a tough situation in her life, and so travel becomes a bit of a medicine. I remember that thinking to myself, boy, there is something about going to another destination that does strike a chord metaphysically, spiritually, emotionally, physiologically. And I remember thinking, this is before I got into the travel space. I remember that fondly for just reminding me, if nothing else, that travel can be a beautiful, healthy, cathartic thing.
Yeah, for sure. How about a travel movie? Not movie, show, TV show.
Oh, well, I do love The Amazing Race. I wish I was on The Amazing Race. I wish I could host a show like The Amazing Race, simply because I got to go, next we're going to Lima. Now we're going to, Miami. Now it's off to Lisbon. I mean, whoever came up with that show, this is, Johnny, if you could do that and get paid to do that, wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, Phil Kogan's living pretty large.
Smart man. But yeah, I'd say The Amazing Race, it's a family show. We all watch it, and it does strike a chord with each of my kids, and me and my wife. It's like, okay, we got to go there. We've done a little to-do list based on some of these destinations. So it's been
wow.
a show.
How about, do you read a lot? What's your favorite travel book?
I don't read as much as I would like to, Johnny, just because did I mention I have 3 kids?
Yes,
and now there's homeschooling in the mix. I do have a lot of travel, and I don't know the names of it, but I have the most recent couple of books. I've got a book on New York City, and I was reading it because it was about untapped. I've been to New York so often. There was a time when I was going every 2 weeks for a couple of years there, that I was interested. It's a book on some of the hidden gems of even in the middle of Manhattan that those of us who've been there a lot may not even know about. It was a book about New York City treasures, and there was a book on Paris, so sort of for the same reason, because I'd like to go back there soon and just sort of look at things I've not seen there before. And then I do a lot of guides. I have a guide for the U.S. of A, state by state. I'd like to do a cross-country road trip with my kids here before too long, so I've been leafing through that, like which road do we take there and back. I dabble, but certainly I'm doing more of that before I travel now, trying to inform myself with interesting, unique, off the beaten path things that lie along the way.
I got you. How about, what's your worst travel moment?
The worst travel moment I ever had was I woke up on a flight that was about to land, and I had to go to the bathroom, like really. We all been to that place where, like, I really got to go. But we were on the descent, and it was just, I could not get up. And I got to the point, and then of course you landed, and was the gate available? No. So I'm sitting on and so we're waiting, and I got to the point, Johnny, and I hate this, I've never admitted this to anybody but my wife before. I did get to the point where I resigned myself to the reality that I was going to have an accident on this airline seat. And I was mortified, and I was like, I could feel my body taking over. I have no control of what was about to happen. And then I heard the ding, and I ran, and thank God but that was one of the most terrifying, tense moments ever, because I knew what I needed to do, and I couldn't do it. It was tough.
I had a similar one once landing in Heathrow, but
okay.
Say that for another time.
Okay.
Couple more questions. What's your dream destination?
I'd say that Australia now is there. As if places I've not yet been to, but I'd like to. I think Australia is there. I was getting ready to really look at Australia after the wildfires that shut things down, and they have sort of reopened not even that long ago. With my brother there now, I think it's time for me to finally get that trip done. So that's
without a doubt. But it might be a while.
Yeah.
How about, what's the most important thing travel has taught you?
That it is, and I don't want to sound too heady about this, but that it's a necessary thing. I realize, part of the tough thing about quarantine for me is not having that freedom to, on a whim, go. Traveling is driving maybe down to see you in the South Bay from where I am here. I'm right like at the LA Ventura County line. That it does me good. I feel like I meeting other people, seeing other things. I love where I live. I love coming back home here to what I have. But at least for me, it feeds the need. So I feel like what I've learned from travel is it makes me sort of, in a way, who I am. It makes me a little bit of a better individual. I pass that on to my kids. I see them, they each have their to-do list as far as places they want to go. They want to visit family in Chile. They want to go to Peru. They want to go to New Zealand is on one of my son's list. So, yeah, I love the idea of passing that on to them, and I think it just makes us better people.
Agreed. Best travel tip, my last question.
If always check out JohnnyGed.com before you go anywhere, because you're going to have some fantastic tips and fantastic deals there as well. And just make sure everything's charged. I just, your cell phone, you want to make sure it's charged. So just be cognizant of that, and fend for yourself. If there's a show that I like to watch, I put it on my device. If there's a snack I really want, I bring it with me. Fending for yourself is probably going to be the name of the game now moving forward. I think those of us who travel a lot are already there, but just make sure that you are armed with what you need and what you want to make that trip special and memorable.
Great advice, Gabe. Thank you for sitting down, taking the time. Everyone, please check out Gabe's new show on YouTube. Please subscribe to this channel as well. Yeah. Like this video and this podcast. By the way, it's now a podcast, and I think Gabe's going to do the same with his.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone has a great day. And thanks again for stopping by.
Great to see you, pal.
You too.